against the stream. It don't matter what race or creed or color. You love this land and you're my brother. That ain't place to know your stand. If you say you can't breathe, I'll show you we can. Ain't never gonna stop believing. We were born for freedom. We're born for freedom.
All right, all right, all right. Hey, Patriots. How are you, Ragers? I hope you had fun last night at the little crazy stream that I did last night. Kind of fun to do a little drag king action. Had a little mustache going on in tribute to the Top Gun Maverick movie. Y'all know I love me some military men's. Y'all know I love me some military history. And you know I love me some military strategy. And today I have a very special guest. Let me go ahead and rattle off some of the things that this man has accomplished in his life and really accomplished for our country as well as humanity. His name is Mr. Chris Yost, and he is the owner and operator of 207 Tactical. I just had a banner, and I don't know what I just did with it, but I will make another one. I approached Chris originally because I'm always looking to have people with military experience either come in for an Art of War masterclass or come in for the Armageddon series. So I originally approached him because I wanted to talk about weapons on the Armageddon series, and we will have him back for that. But once he kind of gave me his resume, I realized that this is a person who is so much bigger than just guns. He's so much bigger than just warfare. He understands it in a digital perspective. He understands it in a political perspective. And that is what makes him absolutely invaluable. So let me go ahead and rattle off some of the things that he's accomplished in his life. He was an Army combat vet who served 5 years in Army infantry and was stationed last out of El Paso, Texas, in Fort Bliss in 2005 after a Korea deployment to the DMZ. He stood up the 4 BCT 1st Cavalry Division, then the 4 BCT 1st Armor Division. He was medically retired and worked as an ICE officer in the Cyber Crimes Group on the Crimes Against Children Task Force. Sorry, I gotta make sure my audio is correct. Sorry. On the Cyber Crimes Task Force investigating child sex trafficking and child exploitation, like child pornography and child enticement cases. He took part in Operation Fast and Furious and Operation Delago, a huge international child sex operation on Fort Bliss, and involved either Ukraine, Russia, the Philippines, and other known nations to produce child pornography and traffic kids. He is an active member of the Open Carry Texas, where he combated Beto O'Rourke and Congressman Veronica Escobar in an attempt to impose red flag laws in Texas after the Walmart and Santa Fe shootings. He combated the Texas House and Senate on gun control, as well as with Gun Owners of America to fight Texas legislature efforts for gun control, as well as after the church shootings. He ran Anthony Aguero's congressional campaign as his strategist and worked as Irene Armendariz Jackson's policy advisor in her 2020 campaign. He's the former El Paso GOP vice chair and the precinct chair for the El Paso County Precinct number 131. He is also a certified firearms instructor, self-defense instructor, and has degrees and real-world experience in education and knowledge in counterterrorism, homeland security, and security management. Now, I'm not talking shit. Go back. Don't go back to Brandon Straka and say that I said this. Don't go back to Charlie Kirk and tell them that I said this. But let's be realistic here. This is a real patriot. And this is somebody who's put not just a little skin in the game, but all of their skin in the game. This is an individual who understands things that we on the outside, we as civilians don't understand. And for people who are not activists and who don't run campaigns and who don't understand the inner workings of Texas politics, Chad Prather, maybe they should have hired somebody like this. Just saying. No, don't go back snitching. All right. Don't have these people being all mad at me and shit. But I'm just saying that's the whole point of the frustration that I have here on this channel. And you guys, my followers, you see me going through this frustration. I'm looking for people with real world experience and knowledge. I'm looking to talk to people who have real action items for us, people who have walked the walk and don't just talk the talk. And this individual is beyond qualified to join our show. So thank you so much for being here, Chris.
Hey, how's it going, Jenny? Thanks for having me on, and thanks for reaching out to me the other day.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you here. Let me pull up a banner for you. But based on all of those things, and I wanted to first ask you what you think could have been done differently with this Uvalde shooting that just happened in Texas.
So there's a lot of things that could have been done, but the problem is we truly still don't know what the true facts really are. Even the police don't even know what really happened, because first off, there's one account says there was like 40-minute gaps, another one that says there's 70-minute gaps. Then there's the issue with the teacher that left the door, the back door of the school open, and then they closed it, then it was back open again. So we don't truly know what really happened. And then the fact that you had nothing against local regular street beat cops, but even down at the lowest level, patrol cop, everyone gets trained, especially nowadays, to Texas DPS standards under the TCOL, which is the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. It's basically the certification process and commission that certifies officers in the state of Texas. Everyone gets trained at some form or another for active shooter response. So everywhere across the board, no matter if you're in Uvalde, El Paso, Austin, Dallas, Houston, you have some type of uniform education and training on an active shooter response. So there should have been no reason whatsoever of why they waited, especially that long, to go in, or even why they stopped and tried to stop the Border Patrol guys who were, to what I recall and what I've heard, was they were BORTAC, BORTAC, which is like the SWAT components. Like when I was with ICE, we had SRT, which is like our tactical response guys. Some people have SWAT, some people have SRT, some people have like a special response or a rapid response. I served a little bit with the rapid response team in El Paso, which is not so much the SRT. It was more of a lower profile, more for humanitarian and in the case of a hurricane, we did more of a hurricane response. If something happened like a Hurricane Katrina type event, we could have provided law enforcement assistance and humanitarian assistance at the same time. Why those guys were being told not to go in when they were more qualified to handle the threat. These guys were federal. They didn't belong on a local scene in a sense. But why? They were there to help. Why would you try to stop them? So, and they were a federal agency, so they were more properly funded, and they were more trained. So why was there a disconnect? Why were they stopped? Why, especially the chief of police of Uvalde, told them not to go in? Why did they tell them to stand down? There's a lot of stuff that seems suspect at the same time, and I don't want to sound conspiratorial here, but there's a lot of what ifs that could lead to that. What really is going on here?
Sorry, I got to get my questions because I know we had a long conversation. Not a long conversation, but we had a overview from yesterday. Tell us, where am I? I write everything down. I am that girl. Okay, tell us about some of your 2A activism.
Oh, okay. So with Open Carry Texas, that was started, if many people don't know, a couple years ago. CJ Grisham, he's a Army veteran himself. He started off, he was actually taking his son out, if I'm not mistaken. His son was trying out for his, I think it was Eagle Scout, which is the highest level in the Boy Scouts. And part of it was he had to do, I think it was some type of nature walk activity. And it was out there in Temple, Texas. And there was a police officer that had unlawfully detained CJ. He was lawfully, openly carrying, as Texas is, especially at that time, was an open carry state for long rifles. It wasn't open carry for sidearms at the time. And the officer unlawfully detained and unlawfully disarmed CJ, arrested him unlawfully, harassed him, and unlawfully questioned his son. They arrested him, and then they prosecuted him, and that led him on his coalition to for accountability and stand up for the Second Amendment. After they had the if I'm not mistaken, I think it was that, and correct me if I apologize if I'm butchering. I think it was Sutherland Springs. They had the church shooting where a guy walked in wearing a funny costume with a shotgun, walked into a church and shot the church up a couple of years back. I think it was Jack Wilson, I think his name was the off-duty or reserve deputy. Ended up, he was on the church security team, and he used the sidearm and ended up killing the shooter. It was after that point that the Texas House and the Texas Senate were looking to actually start to impose the unconstitutional red flag laws. Now, people may not know that these red flag laws are unlawful, because what they do is, the premise of these red flag laws are, and they've been most like, they're all around a lot, for the most part, they are in Democrat states that, the communist states, I call it, like California, New York. Sadly, they are in Florida, but I think for the most part, Florida's trying to get rid of them now. But what they do is, say in an instance, you have a neighbor, you and your neighbor, you have an argument. You hate guns, so the best way that you think that you're going to get back at your neighbor is you call the police, you file a bogus report, and say, "Hey, my neighbor has guns. I'm scared. I'm terrified to death. He's brandishing his firearms." So the police will come under these red flags. What they'll do is they'll temporarily detain your neighbor without a warrant. They'll go in, they'll confiscate his firearms. So basically, without a warrant, they entered his property. They seized his property again without a warrant, without due process. So they stole his property and they entered his property. Those are both constitutional violations. So basically, without due process under the color of law, those are key arguments there. You got to remember those. Without due process under the color of law, those are court arguments that you can win your arguments with. I have challenges these here with here in the city and county of El Paso, especially under COVID. I've sued the county judge and city council here, and I've won these under COVID lockdowns because they're unconstitutional. I helped end the COVID lockdowns about a year and a half ago in El Paso. But anyway, so with the red flags, they were trying to do the Texas House, and then the Texas Senate had two different hearings. And I spoke on behalf. At the time, I was appointed as the director of legislative affairs for Open Carry Texas El Paso. So I spoke on behalf of Open Carry Texas before both panels. And when it was the Texas Senate, at the time, El Paso's senator was Jose Rodriguez, who was, I believe he was the former district attorney, I want to say, for El Paso. And he was also an attorney at one point. So when I gave my testimony, he actually challenged me, and I presented him with my background in law enforcement and also working with ICE under Operation Fast and the Furious, which was nothing more than the Democrat Party's taxpayer-funded criminal actions of federal arms smuggling to Mexico, in which killed ICE Special Agent Jaime Zapata, and also wounded ICE Special Agent Victor Avila, who I know pretty well. They were both colleagues of mine through ICE. So I presented a lot of stats that made him look stupid, and he challenged me a bunch of times. And to which I asked him one of his arguments, "May I respond?" He said, "Well, sure." I was like, "Well, you being an attorney, I would assume that you may have a recollection of this little document called the United States Constitution, in which there's this little thing called the Second Amendment, which grants us the right to keep and bear arms, which is the only right that is absolute and is the only right that is protected and secured, to which actually says shall not be infringed. It is the only right that we have that is secure." And to which he, as any other Democrat, when they lose an argument, huffs, puffs, moans, and groans. And he ended it with, "Well, we're just not going to see eye to eye on this." And I said, "You're damn right." And he ended up stepping off stage. And I ended up having a standing ovation. It's actually on YouTube, too. They had it here in El Paso at the college at UTEP.
If you have the link for that, go ahead and put it in the private chat, and we'll watch that in a couple minutes.
Yeah, let me see if I can see if I can pull it up.
So FYI, I just missed probably the last 2 minutes of what you said because I had to refresh.
Oh, no, not a problem.
It's always funny how whenever we start getting real juicy, whenever it starts getting real good, that's when something fucks up, you know. I don't know if it's StreamYard or Google or YouTube or the combination of the three, but usually when we start really spitting some facts and it starts getting real juicy, that's when that happens. But anyway, so you talked about Open Carry Texas, the organization. You talked about the red flag laws. Tell us about the Texas School Marshal Educational Code that came out in 2015.
Okay, so for that one, that's still a work in progress with me. I vaguely know a little bit about that one because I'm still trying to, and I have been aggressively attacking that one since my daughter started going to school. Since after she left kindergarten and started going into the public schools, I have been aggressively, as a concerned parent, trying to get involved with this. El Paso, for an example, we have I can't remember what the exact number is, but I want to say I think we have about six or seven school districts here within El Paso. Out of those school districts, we only have, I think, 3 of them that have an actual police department. I think it's El Paso, Socorro, and Conotillo have their own police departments. The others only have rent-a-cops, is the better lack of terms, because they have signs on there that say they're monitored by closed-circuit TV. That's all. And then they have a resource truancy officer that's there once, maybe twice a week. Okay. Now, my daughter's school district is the Socorro Independent School District, which is one of the more well-to-do school districts in the state of Texas. They're well funded. They're building, new schools, new additions, or new stadiums like almost every other month here in El Paso. It's ridiculous. So when I appeal to the school board, directly to the school superintendent, even to my daughter's school principal, their rhetoric was, we don't want it and we don't need it because we have our own police department. And I told them, your police department means jack, and pardon my language, you're jack squat, because you have one cop that's here from 7:30 to 7:45, and then from 3 to 3:15. That's all they're here for. They're here from the morning for traffic. And then if you're lucky, that cop is here, or at least the squad car is here parked during the day, but that cop is usually nowhere to be found. Okay. I'm not feeling secure because that cop is only one cop for a very large campus. Okay. I will feel more secure when you have veterans that are, one, well qualified, more trained, and more armed than that one police officer. And by the way, we will cost the taxpayers in this school district $0 because we want to help the kids. We want to help protect our kids more so, and do it for free because we have nothing to lose. We're retired. We're looking to do something. Why not give back to our community? And you don't want to let us do it for some type of liability. But Governor Abbott, under I think it's under the Texas Education Code, he did sign into that in the 2015 when he did secure some of the gun rights. He did have it in there. He wasn't forcing the school districts to allow guns in the schools. He was leaving it as an option. But that's one of the things that he did to strengthen security in the schools. However, not many school districts decided to do anything with it. In the military, we had a saying that complacency kills. Sadly, that we're seeing nowadays that this is really, this is the sad tale of it. Complacency kills. When you become too secure in that sense, there you go.
Let's talk about this link that you sent me. El Pasoans, is that what you call yourself?
Yeah.
El Pasoans address State Senate Committee on Preventing Future Mass Shootings.
Yeah,
and this was published in 2019. So we're going to go ahead and watch the video together of Veronica Escobar. And then I want you to kind of fill us in on how this pertains. One second. Let me pull it up. Oh, fucking computer. One second, Chris.
Yeah, no worries.
In this time, why don't you take the time to let everyone know how to find you while I figure this out?
So, because I don't believe in censorship, I have been to the point that I have been IP trace banned by Twitter and Facebook. So I found ways to work around it. I am on Twitter now at Real Yost. I'm also on Facebook again, Chris M. Yost. You can even find me on I'm on Truth Social Media and Getter at Yost915. And then Instagram, I'm at Chris207 Tactical, or the 207 dot tactical is the one for my business.
Okay. 1 second. One second, I got to refresh the page.
No worries, no worries. I'm not going nowhere.
Okay. No, it's just really embarrassing because This almost never fucking happens, but I know why it happens when it does happen. YouTube hates me, and so does Twitter.
It's the Democrats. They know that I'm on. They're on to me.
Exactly. Exactly.
I didn't tell you the good news the other day though. I did have someone offline reach out to me trying to intimidate me from Beto's campaign, trying to can you please stop trolling us because you're making us look bad. I'm like, first off, sweetheart, Beto's doing it good all by himself. He doesn't need my help. But no, I'm not going to stop because you may be able to go after the Second Amendment, but my First Amendment, it's not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. God, Ragers, isn't this embarrassing? Do I ever have digital problems like this? Ever? Thank you for your patience. It's coming. I'm sure maybe the landlord didn't pay the cell phone bill. I mean, the internet bill. I don't know. But like, I'm getting super, super low bars on my end, which is very, very unusual.
It's that global warming.
Oh, of course. The same global warming. Did you hear about the guy in France who was complaining about global warming? So he went to the Louvre and rubbed cake on the Mona Lisa, the original. It is the most insane thing I've ever seen. Like, are you kidding me? Why would you take it out on a painting? What does the painting have to do with anything?
Because global warming made him do it.
Oh, exactly.
Just like the guns killed all these people. Not the shooter. The guns killed people.
Okay, until I can bring it up, I'm just going to play the audio. And this is U.S. Representative Veronica Escobar talks about gun safety at her September 5th town hall meeting, the first since El Paso mass shooting. So let me just turn the volume up and we're going to just listen because I don't know why the screen share is not working.
People's ability to hurt each other. It's like, and I'm going to get to that. It's like a car, right? It's like a car, right? You're never going to eliminate car accidents. Never. You cannot legislate in a way where
the fuck.
Funny, that's what she's trying to do now.
Believe there's any reason to have that kind of weapon on the streets. I just don't. I also recognize that we can legislate. We're not going to eliminate people's ability to hurt each other. It's like, and I'm going to get to that. It's like a car, right? You're never going to eliminate car accidents. Never. You cannot legislate in a way where you get in a car and you can be guaranteed absolute safety. That's not going to happen. But the government has a role in helping you be more safe with speed limits, with seatbelts, with airbags. We have to do the same thing with keeping communities safe against gun violence. There's the second epidemic, which is the hate epidemic. The hate epidemic. We are at a point.
So what they're saying is they can legislate human emotion now.
I mean, what I have heard from members of our own community about the fear that they feel because their skin is brown is beyond heartbreaking. I never thought I would hear that from my own community, but I have heard it and I continue to hear it. For me, it is important to call out hate. It is important to confront it, especially when it comes from the highest levels of leadership in our government.
Who?
Say that it is not welcome. And I think we have to stand firm
repudiate them and that we hold people accountable for their words, because their words have consequences, their words have power, and we saw those words in action on August 3rd. We do have to be very careful on domestic terrorism legislation that we're not taking away people's First Amendment right. We can't do that.
There's the hypocrisy right there.
And yell fire without causing harm. We know there are ways to try to keep people safer, and that is going to be our charge, especially this fall.
Okay, let me read a little bit more about that event. State senators tasked with recommending policies to prevent mass violence in Texas on Monday heard from El Pasonians still reeling from the Walmart shooting that killed 22 and injured dozens. The Senate Select Committee on Mass Violence Prevention and Community Safety held at UTEP what was, as of press time, a 5-hour hearing on the effects of mass shootings in Texas and policies to prevent future acts of violence. Local elected leaders, law enforcement, victims, family members, and advocates and others testified to the need for state resources and legislation to protect the public from gun violence. Let me scroll down a little bit. It's harder to get a driver's license in the state of Texas than to buy an automatic weapon. More than 100 people were attending the hearing at UTEP as it got underway about 2 p.m. We're on both sides of the river, and that's what we're about as a community. Mayor D. Margo told the 9-member committee, describing the accused shooter as a hate-filled, evil white supremacist who determined to unleash hate on our community. Senators and speakers addressed the complex connections between mass shootings and domestic violence, mental health, and social media. Also discussed were the parameters of the victims' funds, particularly the plight of the Mexican nationals who, in large measure, aren't eligible to receive state aid. Good. Among the first to testify to the committee, District Attorney Jamie Esparza,
That moron.
recommended the state bolster an existing law that requires those convicted of domestic violence crimes to surrender their weapons. The state could require counties to develop their own protocols for felons and turn in their guns. But the problem with all of these mass shootings and any other thing, usually there's actually not a history of domestic violence. There might be a history of child abuse, but usually these individuals are not in relationships when they do this shit. And I'm saying this, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's crazy. Let's see, what else can we read? So what do you have to say about that meeting and like what's being said? Like, is Texas getting the blue? I mean, you said El Paso's very blue. Is Texas getting that blue mindset, that blue California hippie mindset now?
So the big problem is this: we have, every state has 2 senators. We have Ted Cruz, who, for the most part, he'll rise to the challenge. He'll have a spine. He'll stand up for the Constitution, for the most part. Sometimes he does. Like for this whole thing, like with the Ukraine, I got pissed when he decided to piss away our money and give it to Ukraine. Like that, he lost a lot of points with me. Then you have John Cornyn, who I've been leading here locally with the local GOP and trying to censor him and get him kicked out of office because he voted for a 21% pay raise, but he also voted for inside that back in March, that omnibus spending bill. Inside that spending bill, because every congressman reads the 3,000 pages of crap that's in these bills. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but when you buy a gun, you have to go through the federal background check, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is what gets me about these moron Democrats. Oh, we want background checks. Well, morons, you do. I used to work at a gun shop as well. It's called the NICS check, which is run by the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice also is the FBI and the ATF, who manages the gun stuff. Okay? So the NICS system, the FBI has already released this. 98% is failed. Okay. Here's why. In law enforcement, we go off of what's called sound X. Okay. What that means. Okay. Let's just say hypothetically, my name is John Smith, a very common name. Okay. If I go to ABC gun shop and I try to buy a gun, I don't have a criminal record. I know this. Okay. Because I've bought guns before. However, let's just say John Smith out of Austin, Texas, has a federal felony warrant. Okay, I try to buy a gun. I do my background check here in El Paso. Oh, wait a minute. There's a felony warrant for John Smith under this new bill that John Cornyn decided to go ahead and sign because he wanted his greedy 21% pay raise, which also helped fund Ukraine's money. I am now going to be unlawfully arrested and charged with a criminal felony because my name sounds like somebody who has a warrant because I failed my NICS check. Without due process under the color of law, I'm now a felon until I go to court and have to prove that I'm not that guy. All because the federal background system that is broken already, they don't want to spend the money to fix it, which is simple. They basically, all you have to do is just spend the extra few dollars to update the system and then say, hey, John A. Smith is not John B. Smith. That's that simple. They don't want to spend the money to fix it, but they don't want to do that. So they have the background checks, but I don't know what background checks do they want to do by expanding background checks without violating HIPAA. That's what they want to do. They by expanding these background checks, they're looking at infringing on more rights, which is your private medical information. When they say, they want to do a psychological evaluation.
So if I, as a rape survivor, have diagnosed PTSD, the government can, if the Democrats had their way, they'd be able to see that on paper and say that I'm unfit to carry a firearm.
They would do that, yes.
Okay.
Now, here's a kicker for you, though, and I've just recently learned this with the Texas license to carry now. Although you have to be 21 in the state of Texas to carry a pistol, there is a caveat to the law that Governor Greg Abbott kind of did a proverbial middle finger to the federal government. There are certain circumstances that I can use my discretion as a license to carry instructor, long as you can provide me certain evidence in your situation that you just gave, that you are a sexual assault survivor and that you have a credible fear that you're going to be a victim or what have you. I can expedite your license to carry based off of that fear and that your prior history of being a victim. I can go ahead and grant you your license to carry, even though that you're not 21 years of age.
Nice. Let's move on to, this is also from 2019. This is another article that you sent me called El Paso Lawmakers. Leaders join groups in rally calling on Congress to ban assault rifles. So I'm going to read it. Let me see if I can get any of the videos to come up and then we'll read it. Okay. Okay, not that one.
What's happened?
Miss Escobar again.
Hopefully she's done this election.
One of the worst days of all of our lives.
Not only just for us, but
it's a day, obviously, that none of us will ever forget. And in fact, it's exactly, just about almost exactly, a little over 2 weeks when we all started learning the news about a terrorist who came into our community, and he later confessed that he did it in order to kill Mexicans and immigrants. And I know that these last 2 weeks have been really, really difficult for all of us, and they have been 2 weeks filled with grief and with tears, with sorrow, with funerals, with vigils, with hope, with hospital visits, with rallies. Most of all, they have been 2 weeks filled with questions about how something like this could happen, how something like this could happen in America, and especially how something like this could happen in El Paso. El Paso, one of the most charitable, kind, and beautiful communities in the country. The community that has shown the rest of the nation what goodwill and kindness means in times of strife and challenge. How could this have happened in a community that has wrapped its arms around the most vulnerable, a community that has always welcomed the stranger, a community that has always been about family?
I remember from that particular event right there, she actually tried to get me and my partner at the time, James Pinata, who was the acting president of Open Carry Texas El Paso. She tried to get us criminally trespassed from a public park.
I see. Oh shit! You're on here. Hold up.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm holding the "Don't Tread on Me" flag.
Yes,
or the Texas flag. She actually addressed me and him specifically, as well as the two of the state representatives that we had. We stood there. We said nothing, and we were standing there. We had Moms Demand Action. We had like a bunch of like radical leftist Latino groups, like Democrat groups. Like I was open carrying my pistol. I walked by 2 state troopers and 2 El Paso PD cops in the park. They looked at me. One of them even shook my hand and said, "Thank you for taking your response. Like, thank you for taking your safety as a responsible citizen." I'm like, I'm a veteran. Do you see my hat? I'm not afraid of nothing. I'm a white guy down here in the barrio. I ain't scared of shit. And I was surrounded by cholos.
Right.
I'm like, what the terrorists in Iraq didn't do to me, I ain't scared of what these wannabe thugs are gonna do.
Right, exactly.
And then she tried to order the police. She's like, I need you will go ahead and criminally trespass these guys. The cop sat there, he's like, make me.
Wow.
It's a public park.
Let's see what you had to say. It's only a 24-second clip, but
My thing is this, as a veteran, I don't really get too political, but nowadays I have no choice. As a veteran, I find it ironic that the United States government says, you go take a gun, go kill in defense of your country. But yet when I try to do it for defense of my community, my family, my property, I'm no good to do it. No matter if it's assault rifle, a pistol, whatever it might have you. Okay?
yeah, they cut you off. I get, but
and that one right there. That one right there. After I had that, I had a personal meeting with Veronica Escobar at her congressional office here. I got criminally trespassed from her office because what I told her was during our meeting, because she was going on a tirade about how guns are evil. I'm like, excuse me, Congresswoman, would it help you to know that as you're sitting across the table from me right now, that I'm actually carrying my pistol on me right now? I was carrying concealed. She tried to say, how dare you? This is a federal building. I'm like, no, it's not. We're sitting on top of we're sitting in an administrative office inside the Wells Fargo Tower. This is a private building that is not properly and legally displaying a 30-06 or 30-07 sign. You are renting and you are leasing an office in a private owned building. Therefore, you are not properly displaying a state mandatory sign. So I am not in violation. And then she ended up trespassing me.
They have the rest of your quote here that got cut off. Let me read it. As a veteran, I don't really get too political, but nowadays I have no choice, Yost said. As a veteran, I find it ironic that the U.S. government says to you, go take a gun and kill in defense of your country. But yet when I get back and try to do it for the defense of my community, my family, and my property, I am not good to do it, no matter whether it is an assault rifle or a pistol. I advocate that with sensible training, background checks, and being of lawful age, you should be allowed to have a gun to defend yourself, your family, and your community. Escobar addressed the counter-protesters during her speech. There are many minds we are not going to change, Escobar said as she pointed to the protesters. And I assume that was the crowd you were in.
That's the thing. We weren't
That
even
is
protesting. We were just standing there keeping quiet.
right. That is fine. We are not going to change some minds, but we are going to bring people to the table that want and demand a safe and secure community like ours. Moody also acknowledged the protesters in his speech. I see my friends in the back over there that don't have the same opinion, he said as the protesters shouted at the crowd.
Yeah, we didn't even
And
shout.
that's okay. Our job and our challenge is to have the conversation with everyone and bring people together. If there is one thing we have to take away from this tragedy, the hate and violence that came to our town is what binds us together is our humanity that is stronger than anyone trying to shut you down. Listen, I mean, this is where it gets exhausting for me. You know, having grown up in California and lived the majority of my life in California, both Los Angeles and San Francisco, Oakland, here's where I'm confused. We tolerate and suffer and feel the effects, the communal effects, the financial effects, the public health effects of criminals of my skin color who are regularly terrorizing children, women, and businesses on a regular fucking basis. In broad daylight, on the trains, in the streets. And yet, no one wants to address that. No one wants to address, I mean, I don't know what gangs you guys have out here. I know MS-13 is a big one in California. La M, 18.
Yeah, we helped
18th
in El
Street.
Paso. In El Paso, we used to have MS-13 when I got here in 2005 with the Army. One of our first things was unofficially we kind of helped the Army kind of help curb the MS-13 threat, and then when I started working for ICE, we kind of helped flush out MS-13 from El Paso. It's still here, but we kind of helped diminish their numbers in El Paso. But we still have the Barrio Aztecas here, one of the big ones.
So nonetheless, okay, you guys have your problems with the violence. We have our problems with the violence in California. The big one out there is 18, 18th Street gang. When are these same communities going to demand? When are these same politicians going to demand the violence stop? When when it's the Mexicans doing it? When it's the Latin Americans doing it to each other and to random businesses, and here's what you don't hear about on the news, especially in areas like South Central and other parts of South LA, who regularly commit racist acts of terrorism against Black people.
I was just about to say that. I'll raise you. Black Lives Matter. Whatever happened to that? Chicago, hello. Here we go. Black Lives Matter, I thought. Well, what about the criminal blacks killing fellow Black lives with criminals in possession of guns that they stole? They unlawfully obtained these guns. Wait, I thought that criminals follow the law. So if a felon knowingly cannot have a gun, but he still stole the gun, either robbed a house, robbed a gun shop, robbed a pawn shop, or bought it at in an alley or whatever drug dealing deal, however they do it, and he committed a murder, but it's my fault as Joe Biden and all the Democrats say. I love this under Obama because I can remember this when I worked under Operation Fast and the Furious. Okay, after Fast and the Furious happened, when Obama got caught with his pants down, and for those of you who don't recall what Fast and the Furious was about, Obama was funding the Mexican cartels and the gun violence and the drug violence, okay, in Mexico. What he was doing was he was telling the U.S. Customs and Border Protection and Border Patrol, hey, I want these guns to go south to Mexico. There are these vehicles, okay, that are going to go south. Do not stop them. Although Border Patrol was like, hey, wait a minute. We can't do this. This is criminal and it's immoral. No, don't worry about it. We're going to track the guns. No. And this is the U.S. law enforcement. It doesn't make sense. Why would you do this? Don't worry about it. It's okay, is what Obama said. So they were ordered to let it. Okay. So what happens? Mexican gun violence happens. Oh, well, what happened? U.S. law enforcement in Laredo, Brownsville, McAllen, Eagle Pass, Presidio, U.S. cops were getting killed. Border Patrol agents were getting killed. ICE agents got ambushed. Oh, so Obama decided when he got caught, oh, well, Border Patrol and ICE, this is your fault. Oh, well, that didn't work. Obama gave his glorious speech. This is, and I quote, this is the American white Christian male veteran Second Amendment conservative gun owners' fault for their love of their gun rights. Their need to have their guns is the fault of the Mexican gun violence. This is why this is your fault, America. Your need for the guns is the fault that these guns went to Mexico. I'm like, how the hell is it my fault that my guns that are perfectly fine in the safe went to Mexico? What the hell's my guns that went nowhere and are inanimate? How the hell is that possible that they just traveled 1,300 miles south?
Oh, God. Texas is just like California. You know, I moved here to get away from California, but it's the same shit in a different place.
And look at it. That's how they're doing it. Like they're bringing all the bad aspects of the liberal states to Florida and Texas, so that way they can. They already destroyed California and New York, so they're trying to bring those voting here, so they can try to destroy those states.
Hey, I want to read some of the comments. So, I believe this is the individual here who has what looks like the Uma Thurman from Pulp Fiction profile picture here. I don't know how to say your name, but I know that you follow me on Twitter, so thank you for being here. I do want to read some of the comments that he or she
Let's
wrote.
do it.
One thing's for sure, Dems see Texas as a huge target. We already have 7344 forms to fill out for the ATF.
4473s. Okay.
But the feds don't even do their jobs. There's people who passed their 7344 but turned out to be crazy shooters. Jenny's right about the Oakland, San Francisco area. Repeat offenders are often released without charges, especially for DUIs. Hello. Which hello, a vehicle, a vehicle in motion is a weapon too, in case people didn't know, especially if you're under the influence and driving. Not likely they're going to bring up non-white groups doing significant degrees of crime. Instead, progressives release criminals because they generate a majority of firearms deaths. Stat harvesting. Thanks, Obama. Chris, why don't you close this out with any last thoughts you want to share with us?
Well, I was going to say, with all of this discussion and with both the radical left and the moronic right politicians talking about this quote common sense gun control, we all know that it's an oxymoron. You can't have common sense when it comes to violating the Constitution. It's bottom line. So I'm going to offer my insights as a Second Amendment advocate, a veteran, someone who worked in law enforcement, and just an average American. Here's my standing point. Here's how we end the debate and we fix the gun violence. Okay, 1, leave the guns the hell alone. 2, we strengthen the penalties that are on the books already. Here's an example. Okay, For instance, for one, if you commit a crime with a gun, make it a mandatory prison sentence. Like say automatic. If you commit armed robbery, automatic 5-year prison sentence. You have no chance of an appeal. It's non-negotiable. Okay. Repeat offender. Next, you get the next category, 10 years. Now, here's the kicker. You commit a gun crime and say someone gets injured or killed, automatic whammy. It's 15 years. There's no fighting it, okay? The more people they get hurt or killed, it just ups the ante to a point where it's life in prison, no parole. There is no appeals, okay? We actually have to do this thing called enforcing the law. After all, we have what's called law enforcement. Why do we have a criminal justice system if there is no justice to be served? Okay? Why do we have law enforcement if there is no enforcement of the law? We have to stop worrying about public perception and what the world thinks of the United States because, one, the world's not funding. Yeah, the United Nations, the hell with them. What the hell do we care? What do they offer it all? We fund it, $10.8 billion, and what do we get out of it? To get told how to live? Okay? We have to stop worrying about what the world thinks of the United States because they're not dealing with what we're dealing with. Okay? They're telling us how to live at our expense. Okay? The only way that criminals are going to learn is if we actually start taking the fight back to criminals and start showing that, there's accountability for your actions. And then after a while, when they start realizing, oh, crap, I can't do this anymore without getting in trouble, maybe Chicago might, and Philly, I'm from Philly originally, maybe Philly will stop being a crap hole and heroin addicts will stop being on the streets. Maybe they will stop killing people.
Oh, my God.
I don't know. That's just common sense. That's just me.
And speaking of your common sense, we definitely want to hear more of it. So let's arrange another time for you to come back. And
oh, definitely.
We have so much to discuss, especially with your experience. I want to hear more information about the human trafficking work that you've done, Save the Children. Also, I want to hear more about your actual campaign work that you did with Anthony Aguero. Your border patrol work, your border network activism. And then when you're ready, let's bring you back and let's take all the politics out of it. Let's take all the other stuff out of it. And let's strictly talk about survivalism. I want to get your survivalist pro tips for worst case scenario, full black pill. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's already getting way worse than I ever dreamed America could get.
Well, just a real quick tip just right now. If you haven't started already, you're already too late. So I'm telling you right now.
Well, I already know I'm going to die. That's fine. But I want to make sure my Ragers don't die.
So
I'm not prepared for Armageddon.
Start going to Sam's. Start stocking up right now. Start stocking up a Monster.
We're gonna need the calories and the energy, right?
There you go.
That I can do. All right. Thank you so much, Chris, and can't wait.
Always a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
A week or two. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye.